Family Matters ran for 9 seasons and made Steve Urkel one of the most recognizable characters in television history. But what happened to the cast after the show ended is more shocking, more tragic, and more surprising than anything that ever aired on Friday nights. Here's where all 15 of them ended up in 2026. Number 1. Reginald VelJohnson. 9 seasons, endless chaos. And somehow, Carl Winslow kept his cool, at least on screen. Reginald VelJohnson was already 37 years old when Family Matters premiered in 1989. And he wasn't exactly a newcomer. Just 1 year earlier, he'd played Sergeant Al Powell in Die Hard, a role that alone would have been enough for most actors to hang their hat on. But Reginald wasn't most actors. When Family Matters ended in 1998, he didn't disappear. He kept showing up. Guest roles, recurring characters, conventions, reunions. In 2026, at 74 years old, Reginald is still working, still recognized, and still beloved. He's appeared in Mike and Molly, Heart of Dixie, and a handful of other projects that prove Hollywood hasn't forgotten him. Here's what's interesting though. The man never married. No kids, no public relationships, by all accounts. Acting has been his entire life, and he seems completely at peace with that. Some actors spend decades trying to outrun their most famous role. Reginald VelJohnson just leaned into it, and it kept him relevant for 40 years. Number 2. Marie Payton. Most people remember her as the backbone of the Winslow household. What they don't talk about enough is why she left before the show even ended. Marie Payton was 40 years old when Family Matters began in 1989, a seasoned actress who brought genuine warmth and authority to Harriet Winslow. For 8 seasons, she held the family together on screen. Then in season 9, she was gone. No big farewell, no proper send-off, just gone. The reason? Marie was done watching a family show get hijacked by one character. Steve Urkel had gone from a one-episode guest to consuming every storyline, every episode, every conversation. She reportedly walked away out of sheer frustration. And honestly, it's hard to blame her. What most fans don't know is that she landed on her feet just fine. She voiced Sugar Mama in The Proud Family, introducing herself to an entirely new generation of kids who had no idea she'd once ruled a Friday night sitcom. In 2026, Marie is 77 years old. She's been married multiple times, has children, and has never been shy about speaking her truth. Harriet Winslow kept quiet and kept the peace. Marie Payton did the exact opposite, and she'd probably tell you that was the better choice. Number 3. Jaleel White. Here's something wild to think about. The most iconic character in Family Matters history was never supposed to last more than 1 episode. Jaleel White was just 12 years old when he walked onto that set in 1989 as the nerdy neighbor nobody asked for, and accidentally became the reason millions of people tuned in every week. The suspenders, the voice, the cheese, the catchphrase. America fell in love. The show's producers took notice, and suddenly everything revolved around Steve Urkel, which sounds like a dream, until it wasn't. By the time the show ended in 1998, Jaleel was 21, and carrying a character on his back that he'd never be allowed to put down. Auditions went nowhere. Casting directors couldn't see past the suspenders. He tried Dancing with the Stars in 2012, pushed through various TV projects, did voice work, even appeared in Grown Ups. But the shadow never fully lifted. His personal life added more weight. A custody battle over his daughter with Bridget Hardy played out publicly, messily, and painfully. Colleagues from the show have spoken over the years about the resentment that quietly built behind the scenes. Cast members who felt sidelined by a character that was never supposed to take over. In 2026, Jaleel is 50 years old. He's candid about all of it now. The typecasting, the isolation, the complicated legacy of playing one character for 9 years. Starting at age 12, Steve Urkel made Jaleel White a star. It just came with a price tag nobody told a 12-year-old kid about. Number 4. Kellie Shanygne Williams. For 9 seasons, she was the girl Steve Urkel would do absolutely anything for. The question nobody asked was, what would she do once the cameras stopped rolling? Kellie Shanygne Williams was 13 years old when Family Matters started, which means she didn't just act on that show. She actually grew up on it. Every awkward year, every milestone, every transition from girl to young woman happened in front of a live studio audience. That kind of upbringing could break a person. For Kellie, it didn't. After the show wrapped in 1998, she did something most child stars never think to do. She went to college, earned her degree, took her time. Acting continued. Guest appearances on Eve, What About Your Friends, and a few other projects. But fame was never the obsession. And here's where her story genuinely separates from almost everyone else on this list. She married Hannibal Jackson in 2009, had 2 kids, built a lifestyle brand, and started working behind the scenes in entertainment. No scandals, no public meltdowns, no desperate comeback attempts. Just a woman who figured out who she was outside of a television character and built something real. In 2026, Kellie is 50 years old, and by every measure, she won. Laura Winslow spent 9 years rejecting Steve Urkel. Kellie Shanygne Williams spent the years after, rejecting the trap that caught so many of her peers. Number 5. Darius McCrary. He played the cool kid. Smooth, confident, always knowing what to say. The reality turned out to be a lot more complicated than that. Darius McCrary was 13 when Family Matters premiered. Same age as Kellie, same experience of literally growing up on television. After the show ended, his career kept moving. He landed a series regular role on Star, did extensive voice work including Transformers Prime, and stayed visible in the industry longer than most expected. But it was his personal life that kept making headlines. And not the kind anyone wants. 3 marriages. 2 of them ending in very public, very ugly divorces. Both his second wife Karine Steffans and his third wife Tommy Bronner made allegations of domestic violence. Darius denied everything and filed his own counter-claims. Custody battles followed. The whole thing played out in tabloids and entertainment blogs. For years. What makes it complicated is that through all of it, he kept working. Projects kept coming. The personal chaos never fully derailed the career, which, depending on how you look at it, is either impressive or deeply unsettling. In 2026, Darius is 50 years old. Eddie Winslow was the brother who always had it together. Darius McCrary's real life became proof that the coolest kid in the room doesn't always have the smoothest road ahead. Number 6. Telma Hopkins. Before we even get to Family Matters, understand that Telma Hopkins didn't need it. By the time she walked onto that set in 1989 as Rachel Crawford, Telma was already 41 years old and had been famous for nearly 2 decades. She'd performed as part of Tony Orlando and Dawn in the 1970s, scoring massive hits that filled radios across America. She'd done Bosom Buddies alongside a then unknown Tom Hanks. The woman had range, she had credits, and she had staying power. Long before the Winslow family existed, Family Matters gave her a new audience. What she did after gave her a legacy. Post-show, Telma kept moving without missing a beat, half and half. Are We There Yet?, Give Me a Break, and perhaps most surprisingly, The Masked Singer, which proved she could still command attention in a completely different era of entertainment. Here's what separates her from almost every other name on this list. She never had an after Family Matters problem. There was no identity crisis, no typecasting trap, no desperate reinvention. She simply continued being Telma Hopkins, which was already more than enough. In 2026, she's 78 years old, still working, still sharp, married once, with 2 children. Rachel Crawford was the fun aunt who livened up every room she walked into. Telma Hopkins has been doing exactly that since 1970, and 5 decades later, she still hasn't stopped. Number 7. Shawn Harrison. Not every story ends in tragedy. Not every story ends in a comeback either. Sometimes a person just finds peace. And that might actually be the most surprising outcome of all. Shawn Harrison joined Family Matters in 1990 as Waldo Geraldo Faldo, Eddie's lovably clueless best friend who somehow made dim-witted. Charming. He was around 18 years old, the recurring character nobody expected to stick around. And yet fans genuinely loved Waldo in a way that surprised even the writers. When the show ended in 1998, Shawn didn't land another major role. Guest appearances here and there, a few reunion appearances, and then silence. Almost complete silence. And here's the thing that makes his story interesting. He doesn't seem to mind at all. By most accounts, Shawn stepped away from Hollywood, built a normal life, and found work outside of entertainment entirely. No public meltdowns, no bitter interviews about being forgotten, no failed reality show attempts. Just a guy who played a memorable character, enjoyed the ride, and got off when it was over. In 2026, Shawn is 54 years old and remains one of the most private former cast members of any 90s sitcom. He shows up at Family Matters reunions, smiles for the photos, and goes back to his life. Waldo Faldo was too innocent to understand how the world worked. Shawn Harrison apparently understood it, better than almost anyone. Number 8. Rosetta LeNoire. Here's a number that will stop you cold. Rosetta LeNoire was 77 years old when Family Matters started. Most people at 77 are retired, slowing down, wrapping things up. Rosetta was showing up to a network sitcom set every week, stealing scenes, and making audiences fall in love with Mother Winslow, the sharp-tongued grandmother who had a bizarre soft spot for Steve Urkel that nobody could quite explain, but everyone found hilarious. What the audience didn't fully appreciate was who they were actually watching. Rosetta had been working since the 1930s. She'd performed on Broadway for decades. She founded the Amos Repertory Theater Company, one of the first racially integrated theater companies in America, at a time when that was genuinely dangerous and radical. By the time she reached the Family Matters set, she had already lived 10 careers worth of history. Her castmates have spoken about her consistently in one way, with complete reverence. A professional, a legend, someone who treated every single person on set with dignity, regardless of their role or status. Rosetta passed away in March 2002, at 90 years old, after complications from diabetes. The loss was felt deeply across the cast, across Broadway, and across an entertainment industry that rarely produces people of her particular caliber. Mother Winslow called Steve Urkel her Stevie Kins, and meant every word. Rosetta LeNoire spent over 6 decades proving that real artistry never asks for a spotlight. It just quietly fills every room it enters. Number 9. Bryton James. He was 4 years old when he first appeared on Family Matters, the cute kid with the big eyes who made every scene warmer just by being in it. Nobody watching in 1990 could have predicted what kind of career was actually ahead of him. Bryton James joined the show in 1990 as Richie Crawford, Rachel's adorable little son, who the Winslow family essentially absorbed into their chaos. For several seasons, he was pure comic relief, the kid who said innocent things at exactly the wrong moment, and brought the house down every time. After Family Matters wrapped in 1998, Bryton bounced through a few TV projects and films without anything major sticking. And then in 2004, something clicked. He landed the role of Devon Hamilton on The Young and the Restless, and never looked back. That was over 20 years ago. 20 years on the same show, playing the same character, winning multiple daytime Emmy Awards, and becoming one of the most respected actors in the entire soap opera world. While his former castmates were navigating scandals and identity crisis and Hollywood's short memory, Bryton was quietly building one of the most stable and decorated careers of anyone on this list. In 2026, Bryton is 40 years old. He keeps his personal life private, shows up to work, and wins awards. Little Richie Crawford was the kid everyone wanted to protect. Bryton James grew up and became someone the entire daytime television industry genuinely respects. Number 10. Michelle Thomas. Some stories don't have a second act, and those are always the hardest ones to tell. Michelle Thomas joined Family Matters in 1993 at 23 years old, playing Myra Monkhouse, the girl who loved Steve Urkel with the same obsessive intensity that Steve loved Laura. She was funny, she was sharp, she had chemistry with everyone around her, and she made what could have been an annoying character genuinely likable. Fans responded to her immediately. What most people didn't know was that she'd already proven herself before Myra ever existed. From 1988 to 1990, Michelle played Justine Phillips on The Cosby Show, which meant she'd held her own on 2 of the biggest black sitcoms of an entire generation. Then came the diagnosis. While still working on Family Matters, Michelle was privately battling a rare and aggressive form of stomach cancer. She kept showing up, kept performing, kept making people laugh on screen, while fighting something devastating off it. The cast knew, the crew knew, and somehow, she still delivered every single time. Family Matters ended in 1998. Michelle Thomas passed away in December of that same year. She was 30 years old. Her castmates, especially Jaleel White, have never fully gotten over it. In interviews across the years, the grief is still right there on the surface. Whenever her name comes up, she was engaged to be married when she died. She had everything ahead of her. Myra Monkhouse loved a man who could never love her back the same way. Michelle Thomas gave everything she had to a craft that the world didn't give her nearly enough time to fully explore. Number 11. Orlando Brown. There are child star cautionary tales, and then there's Orlando Brown, a story so painful it's difficult to watch from a distance, let alone live through. Orlando joined Family Matters in 1996 at just 9 years old, playing 3J, the troubled orphan the Winslow family took in during the show's final seasons. He was a natural, easy charisma, genuine emotional range for a kid that age, and an ability to hold the screen that suggested real longevity ahead. After Family Matters, that promise looked like it might actually be fulfilled. From 2003 to 2007, Orlando played Eddie Thomas on Disney Channel's That's So Raven, landing him in front of a whole new generation of kids who had no idea about his Family Matters past. 2 hit shows before age 20, by any measure. The foundation looked solid, then everything collapsed. Multiple arrests, domestic violence charges, drug possession, an incident in 2016 involving a knife and his girlfriend that ended in handcuffs. Erratic public interviews where he made bizarre claims that alarmed everyone watching. Viral videos that were more disturbing than anything scripted. A Dr. Phil appearance where his own family sat across from him and begged him publicly to get help. In 2026, Orlando is 39 years old. The trajectory of his life sits heavy on anyone who watched him as a bright-eyed 9-year-old. Finding his forever family on a Friday night sitcom. 3J finally found a home with the Winslows. Orlando Brown has spent years searching for solid ground in real life, and the search has been brutal to witness.